Hello everyone and welcome to Music Theory with GUIM. In this exploration of Schubert, we're going to be taking a look at an early composition of his. In English, the title can be referred to as Lament, or by the name of the poem, My Peace Is Gone. We'll be looking at the piece in its entirety for the first couple episodes of this series, but I'd like to mention that we'll be looking specifically at the harmony. I won't be delving into much of the melody nor the correlation between the lead's text and the music, since I do not speak German. In the future, we will look at melodies, but you shouldn't expect me to often discuss the text of Schubert's Lieder. Anyways, in this installment, we're going to cover the following excerpt, so let's take a listen to it and then jump on in. So, we're in the key of G minor, and right from the beginning, we're dealt a chord of tension. If we isolated the first chord and asked someone what they thought it was, they would most likely think it's a diminished triad. And that's because we're hearing what can be defined as a root, minor third, and diminished fifth, except in the music it is spelled with D flats and harmonic C sharp, which is an augmented fourth and not a diminished fifth. And with a G minor triad directly following, we can look at the harmony less like a diminished triad and more as a chromatic embellishment with C sharp approaching D. So we'll label this opening measure as a simple G minor, the 1 chord. That said, we could also consider it to be a type of common tone diminished seventh, and in this case that would be C sharp diminished 7 over G, except that the minor third E is not present. Considering the symmetrical nature of the diminished 7th chord and the context this is used in, it's not detrimental for the chord to not have its third, and personally I take into account both of these options, and in the future we'll see how Schubert uses this incomplete diminished 7th structure in other compositions. Anyways, following this measure, we do actually hear a complete diminished 7th chord, which is F sharp diminished 7, the 7 diminished 7. Rather than resolve the tension immediately to G minor, the harmony is changed to become D7 over F sharp, or 5-6-5. Considering the closely tied relation of the diminished 7th chord and the dominant 7th chord, we're not really hearing a change in function, instead it's simply a continuation. And that function is fulfilled because we then proceed to a G minor chord in measure 3. Following this, we hear D major, the 5 chord, and then E flat major, the flat 6. Make note of how Schubert opted to omit the 5th of D major, which avoids the parallel fifths potentially created when moving from 5 to flat 6 or D major to E flat major. This results in the 3 voices D, F sharp, and D, and this voicing allows for contrary motion in that the bottom 2 voices ascend by parallel thirds and the top voice leaps down from D to B flat. Moving from E flat major, we then have C minor, the 4 chord, and following this we have something that can be viewed as a D sus4 with no 5th or as a G5. Really though, this dyad is a means to connect C minor to C minor over E flat, the 4-6 chord, in the following measure. The bass tone rises from C to E flat, the middle tone uses oblique motion, and the highest tone descends from E flat to C. And after the 4-6 chord, we then hear a return to C in the bass, only this time it ends up being the diminished 5th of F sharp diminished 7, which means we have a 7 diminished 4-3. This is an interesting choice because it is more common to see a 4-6 progress to a 5 triad or 7th chord in root position. Instead, however, we have an inverted 7 diminished 7, and as mentioned prior, the relationship between the diminished 7th chord and the dominant 7th chord is tightly woven. As a result, we can think of this progression as a substitution or modified 4-6 to 5. Also, Schubert could have chosen to keep E flat in the bass and voice the chord as a 7 diminished 4-2 or as F sharp diminished 7 over E flat, but the reason he didn't is most likely due to his decision to resolve the chord to G minor over B flat or the 1-6 chord. So rather than have a leap of E flat to B, we instead hear a stepping motion of C to B flat. This descending bass line continues as we hear G minor over B flat fall into F7 over A. This can be labeled diatonically as the flat 7-6-5 or as the 5-6-5 of flat 3, with B flat major, the flat 3 chord, following. And though the secondary labeling is unnecessary as the flat 7 normally proceeds to the flat 3 anyways, we're going to see in the following episode how this relationship is taken a bit further. And with B flat major labeled, we're now at the end of our excerpt. So overall, we're looking at a functional progression that's a really good example of navigating the minor tonality. We're not really seeing anything that's out of the ordinary, aside from the opening tonic chord being voiced inharmonically as a diminished chord, and the 7 diminished 4-3 following the 4-6 chord. So with the analysis present, let's go ahead and take another listen to the excerpt and then conclude this episode. Alright, so in episode 2, we're going to work through the remaining harmony of this song, which offers a bit of chromaticism, as well as some more solid tactics for navigating the minor tonality. In the meantime, should you happen to have any questions or thoughts regarding this episode's content, or if you happen to have any requests for future Schubert explorations, feel free to drop a comment below. Otherwise, thank you for watching another episode of Music Theory with GUIM.